Hey there, film fans. I'm Jeff.
I'm Dave.
And I'm John, and welcome back to The Love of Cinema, a pod in which we'll challenge one another to discuss movies, both new and old, with a strictly positive critical eye.
That's right. And to avoid lazy negativity, we decided to make this episode a little bit of a drinking game. So anytime you hear anything negative on this podcast at all, our job is to be positive. So if you hear anything negative at all, we're going to play this sound. And that sound means that we have to take a drink, and we actually hope you play along with us and drink along.
So, pour yourselves a glass, ready your shots, gentlemen, and we're going to ask that question we ask every time M. Night Shyamalan comes out with a film. Did he do it this time?
Yep. Cheers.
Jesus Christ.
I've decided there's a lot of different, the Shyamaverse. It's a lot of different things, but I think the binary for me that is the most interesting is good ending, movie doesn't live up to the ending, or good movie, we didn't live up to the ending. Obviously, there's exceptions to that, but I feel like that's what I'm most curious to hear about you two.
I don't know.
Balance?
There's a whole debate started now about The Village. Like they did it wasn't really that bad. Basically, the whole internet is doing our gig, and people are talking about like The Village. And I had to laugh when I saw, and I told you about this earlier, but I had to laugh when I saw the video of M. Night Shyamalan talking about it. And he's like, well, people, we kind of misled them a bit. People thought they were going in to see the scariest movie they've ever seen. And instead they got a really good drama. And I was like, did they?
Dave, we talked about The Village. I think we were. Okay, wait, really quick. We're talking about Knock at the Cabin today. Knock at the Cabin, which of course is in theaters only. He has compared himself to Christopher Nolan and Quentin Tarantino as filmmakers that need to get their movies out in the theater.
The difference is
we laugh, but you know what? He fucking loves making movies, and you know what? He gets his movies made. They all get made. They all get done.
He's been self-financing since 2015.
Yeah, wouldn't you if you just came out
making his money back? He's been making his money back, so, more power to him.
More power to him. And guess what, Dave? Yeah. I know our metrics are a little crazy, but Old is our most downloaded podcast to date. And guess what, John? You weren't there, so
I took the hint. I know. I really should just stop. I know.
So we're happy to have you today, even though it means our ratings are going to take a hit. We're very happy to have all three of us.
I feel like 65-year-old Republicans are downloading it by accident, thinking it's a hate manual or something. But
that's what they are.
Yeah, dude, that movie. I was with a group of people the other night, and that movie came up again, and I heard people get into a fight again over whether or not they think it is as bad as everybody says it actually is, or if it had something to say. Just like all of his movies, and I can't wait to talk about that.
Oh, they all have something to say. It's just a matter of
guys,
like, did it get said?
David, sometimes when Dave and I do the two-person show, we go from the beginning and we move forward in the movie, as opposed to doing like the macro and just start, splattering things like Jackson Pollock. And when we got to the ending, like 45 minutes into the episode, both of us were like, "This is such a good idea," just like Facebook, right, John? Just like the ending. If you just did that as a short film, that would have been great. So anyway, we don't want to spoil the review of Old or anything. And you know what? It was one of the first movies back to the theater, so it got us back.
Yeah.
Kudos to M. I'm sorry, he goes by Night. Kudos to Night.
He will pack a house every time, because it's like, is this going to be the time he gets it right, or the time that it really blows up, or because he's had a lot of successful films.
So you're right. Do you remember the line though in Old where he was like, the guy like went underwater and he's like, "I've waited a minute and a half and he has not resurfaced, so I'm going to pack up all of my equipment and leave."
That was the least thing wrong with that movie, dude. Those people knew way too much about fucking quantum physics. I'm sorry.
But hey, you know what? He loves his actors though, because one of the actresses in Old is in this film. One of his actors from Servant is in this. Guys, welcome to the Love of Cinema podcast. If you are new to us, please like and subscribe. If you are only here if you're only here to hear, I don't know why that sounds weird to say. If you're only here to get our takeaway of the film, we do keep it spoiler free for a couple minutes in case you haven't seen it. But just like all M. Night Shyamalan movies, it's hard to talk about the movie without getting into spoiler territory. So it'll probably be very quick. Did you like it? Yes or no? And then we'll move on. But you got to look at the episode notes because we have a couple things we have to get through. So scoot along if you're in a rush or something, or sit back and drink with us. We're going to give you our recommendations of things that we've seen this week at the end of the podcast. And we'll just get a couple things off our chest before we get going in the next couple minutes. But why don't we go to John really quick for some shout outs, and then we'll move on.
Shout outs. We have a beer sponsor. His name is Carlos Barrozo. That is CBARROZO.beer. That's the handle for Instagram, maybe some of his other socials. I'm not totally sure. Check them out and let me know. And the music on this episode is provided by the artist Dasein. That's DASEIN. Dasein. You can find their music available for free on all the usual music platforms. So give them some love as well. And like us, love us, commit us. The love of cinema.
Yeah, and also just for anyone who's listened to previous shows, I was typing the whole time through when John was speaking. Just have a listen. Let me know if you can hear me typing.
I actually didn't hear anything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So good for you.
Yeah, that's why it works when you have a real.
But you're being a dick. So, John, how you doing today? You in a good mood?
That's great.
How you doing? It's early for you over there.
It's not too early. It's 5:30. I'm feeling okay. I'm happy to be here and support you guys. Talking about how better your episode was when I wasn't here.
Good. To be fair to me,
I'm just gonna sit back and I really thought about just sitting back and listening to you guys do this one again, but I would just be here physically so I could, like heckle you throughout. But
Jeff, that's 2 weeks in a row. Someone on the show's called you out for being a dick during the intro.
I do want to apologize to my guest. In hindsight, my goal was to make both of you laugh, which it did, but it definitely came at the expense of our guest. So I am very, very, very sorry, Tina. It was a little too Will Smith, where Will Smith laughed at the joke and then got angry. And maybe that's not exactly what I meant.
At least you didn't smack the shit out of one of us.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That was I shouldn't have referenced that. It's almost the Oscars, but anyway. Yes, come at me. I deserve it. I deserve it for sure. Anyway, so we're talking about Knock at the Cabin. Can't wait to talk about it. Let's do our gripes. Anything else before we do our gripes, Dave? Any news you want to shout out?
No.
All right. So who's got some gripes? Do we have gripes, all three of us?
Oh,
Dave, I smell a gripe.
Yeah.
I feel like you came in hot today with a gripe.
Yeah, I got two listed here. I'm going to choose between them.
I know. I got a list too. Let's do it.
All right. So when you're booking your tickets online through the AMC app, and this is like an AMC problem, no matter what theater you're booking, be it Lincoln Center in New York, Times Square in New York, whatever, you pretty much get the same fucking theater map. But the seats aren't all the same. Like, for instance, Times Square, Dolby Cinema, which is where I saw this one this week, you could quite effectively sit in anything down to row C, and it's a perfectly good seat. Like, any further back and you're losing the audio, any further forward you lose like the Dolby mix a little bit. But IMAX
picky
in Lincoln Center, you fucking, like, if you sit anything before like row F or G, you're in the movie and can't see the fucking edges of the screen. So like, and none of the maps reflect that. The maps should be theater accurate. Cause like I go to like 3 different theaters and I'm booking and I'm trying to I got a list. I have to look up a list every time to tell me which row not to book in each theater. Get your fucking maps together.
Jesus.
Dave, our technical trio mate and advisor, you might want to update your app because mine are all exactly correct over here. I don't know how New York does it now, but
there's things like I thought you were gonna
like the Dolby Cinema in Times Square. I mean, they might just not give a shit, but like if you book row A, you're still 15, 20 feet from the screen because there's a stage area at the front. That's not on the map.
Yeah, I thought you were going to complain about like balconies and stuff because I actually don't. If there is a balcony listed in the map for Lincoln Square, I don't see it. And like row L or whatever is in the balcony, and it looks like a great seat on the thing. And I don't. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just did this yesterday, and I don't remember seeing like this is the balcony written in. And I also don't remember it saying you are underneath an overhang if you sit in these rows. So I will second you with that. It's okay, John. It's a podcast. Nobody listening knows that you just disappeared for a second.
Yeah, YouTube's going to see something really funny.
Yeah, but they could have some fun.
Yeah, that was weird.
John, gripe about your internet connection.
Did you hear my response to your thing though? Could you hear that at all?
No.
Which one?
To your gripe? Did you hear me respond to your gripe at all?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You only dropped out for a second.
Yeah, you said your map's great.
Weird. Mine went completely. I couldn't hear anything, and I lost you guys entirely. Anyway, no hardcore gripe, although shout out to John North Carolina, Charlotte.
John has a Chinese satellite above his house right now.
Not anymore. Very cool.
Yeah, I was going to say, actually, there's one there. They shot the one down, I think, in North Carolina, didn't they? Yesterday?
I believe it was off
Charlotte.
Off the coast.
The coast, just off the coast. So good for you guys. You waited till it covered the entire country before you decided to pull the trigger there.
Oh, they were blocking it the whole way through.
Guys, you blocking it. You guys know because you know that they were trying to.
The guy running with tinfoil along the ground underneath it.
Just kind of realizing how ironic it is that that at the beginning of our positive film podcast we complain about everything, and then we move right into the.
That's the point. We need to get us drinking. We need to get us drinking.
We have a skip point.
Well, hold on. I have a gripe, but it's sort of relevant to the balloon thing, but not. It's not. Okay, go ahead.
All right.
So the water wars have begun. This is my preface. This is not my gripe. The water wars have John, you actively put yourself in a state that doesn't, your mantra isn't how to conserve water. It's how to use as much of it as possible before it runs out. Hashtag the almond farms. They don't try to conserve. They say, you guys stop watering your grass. Anyway, that's not the point of this. Britain, the average Brit next year might have less money than the average Slovenian. No knock on Slovenia. That's just surprising to us here in the Western cultures. So all I'm saying is the article about how China's population is declining and it was a bad thing. Go fuck yourself, people. Population decline is fucking great. It is so great. And any metric that says it's bad proves that we're playing the wrong game here. All right. If the economics are bad because people aren't sucking resources and destroying our planet, which by the way, Goldman Sachs has a growth forecast that increased this year despite getting this population. You know what I mean? So obviously the short term is fine economically, but it's so. Population decline is good. I'm so sick of people saying it's not good. It's the only way. It is the only way.
You're right, but there is also that one instance where if everyone stops having kids and the population ages, suddenly no one's contributing to your social security programs. Because
we're not getting that anyway.
True.
We're not getting it anyway.
It'll be gone in a couple of years.
Just to clarify,
I'm talking about civilized countries,
decline,
not you guys.
It's birth rate decline. We went from 7 billion to 8 billion in 12 years.
No, just China. Billion. China has a smaller population this year than they had last year.
Which, and I'm sure you heard the same article. Apparently, like that could have been true, like maybe up to 5 or 6 years ago.
I mean,
based
my
on the
question
statisticians that were starting to analyze that stuff in 2015 and 16.
This came out during COVID too.
You've nailed it. All these new streaming services are population control. Everybody's watching TV. Nobody's fucking.
I mean, they had the one-child nation for a very long time, and our entire generation, whether we like it or not, in the Western world, is having to probably choose to have 1 or 2 children because of
money.
Yeah, because of money. So, I mean...
But I want to go back to Britain really quick because the average Brit, the Slovenian thing,
okay,
right now...
Think carefully. We have people downloading our episode in
Great. This is the 3rd prime minister in a row that's pro-leaving the EU, even though the EU is the reason that all of this problem is happening.
Okay, but that's not really fair because you covered a month there with 3 prime ministers.
all I'm saying is, rather than talk about goods and resources and money, what it means is that the wealthy people, aka those that end up finding their way into the fucking prime minister's position, apparently, they're probably benefiting disproportionately off of everybody else who is not making any money, but their contributions are making certain people's lives better. So it sucks more for people who have more, it sucks less for people who are having more, or their finances, they're worried about it long term. But like the average person gets hit the most by this. So population decline is maybe just having fewer people is the best thing that everybody could do.
By the way, John, did you tell me to update my AMC app? I'm the technology god of this podcast. Fuck you.
I told you. I prefaced it by saying you are our tech guy. I'm not even drinking for that because I said that first. Yeah.
All right.
I think this is a good time to talk about an apocalypse movie since you're
yes, that's why I chose that script this week.
Happy. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Well, I feel bad for commandeering this episode. John, would you like to set up our M. Night Shyamalan movie this week?
Sure. I will start with anyone who has never heard of Mr. M. Night Shyamalan. You're stupid. So just know who that guy is.
Jeez, John.
He's not wrong, but I still had to buzz him for that.
Yeah. Sorry. Whatever. I guess I'll drink to that. IMDb blurb. For Knock at the Cabin. While vacationing, a girl and her parents are taken hostage by armed strangers who demand that the family make a choice to avert the apocalypse. Oh boy. All right.
Thereby cementing this as the second worst Airbnb experience in 12 months.
I thought the same thing.
Yeah, a whole lot of fun.
They do have a little hint there. Like, there's a little welcome package and stuff on the table. It's like, this is a fucking Airbnb.
Mm-hmm.
They need some kind of button that you push that like overrides when somebody snips your phone lines in.
So it's written by he's got some co-writers on board this time. with M. Night Shyamalan, still writing and a head screenplay credit with M. Night, but he's got Steve Desmond and Michael Sherman. Michael Sherman also wrote North Pole Enterprises and Monsters, and Steve Desmond,
Monsters,
wrote Harry's All Night Hamburgers and Monsters as well. I guess they co-wrote that.
Do you think Steve Desmond's IMDb profile picture was taken in a Denny's? Or no, maybe it's like a TGI Fridays?
Monsters.
Yeah, it is a booth.
Monsters was actually that was the first film to be entirely produced using the Adobe Suite.
Oh. Yeah, and didn't that
visual effects and all?
That didn't he go on to do the Godzilla movies?
I know he did at least. I think he did the sequel as well. There was another Monsters movie that wasn't as.
No, I lied to you.
Original.
Steve Desmond made that.
Okay,
one.
So there you go.
I think we're thinking of a different Monsters, Dave. I don't know if it's the one that. I think I know exactly which one you're talking about, and anyway, that one. Anyway, doesn't matter. Okay, M. Night Shyamalan wrote it, directed it with those guys. Dave Bautista, starring the helm. He's definitely the main actor.
Yeah.
The couple, the two male leads who are inside the cabin that they are trying to get to, put off the apocalypse by making a very difficult choice that we'll get into, are Jonathan Groff. You might know that gentleman from Mindhunter.
It's a great show. I wish they'd finish
Taking Woodstock, the Hamilton. He plays King George. Anybody who saw that on stage,
yes.
the Hamilton recording of Hamilton, whatever.
Yeah.
And Ben Aldridge plays the other father, Daddy Andrew, Daddy Eric.
Mm-hmm.
So sexy. And maybe you forgot what this guy was doing, but Rubert Grint. Is it Grint?
John's Googling again.
Rubert Grint.
Is it Rupert Grint?
It really is.
Grint, yeah.
Yes.
All right. Fucking Harry Potter.
And what a departure for him.
What is his name in Harry Potter, dude?
Ron Weasley.
Ron, dude. Jesus Christ. He's there as we're going to get into this, but I don't know, you guys. This was another insulated idea for Mr. M. Night Shyamalan. He was trying to stretch it out, get some actors together, and make a lot of money from the sales. We'll see what everybody thought about it.
This movie came to him. The novel written by Paul Tremblay, The Cabin at the End of the World, was given to him to produce, and then he stepped away because he thought that the book doing a 1-to-1 wasn't cinematic for him, his tastes. So then once the director passed, then they went back to him and said, okay, you can make the changes you need to make. So he did have some source material.
Change he did, yeah.
Yeah. Well, who wants to start it off? What'd you think? What were your thoughts?
Dave?
All right. First of all, I'm going to help you out here. This is, everyone always goes into these films going, what's the twist going to be? What's the twist going to be? Don't wait for the twist with this one, because I found, like, if you just let yourself fall into the story with this, I really enjoyed it. Like, don't be waiting for the twist, because, there might not be one. Or the twist is something so subtle you don't even realize there's a twist, would be my thing. This was a really good suspense story, and I changed sides at least twice with the dialogue back and forth of what's going on in the cabin. So yeah, I sat down and I enjoyed this, and I walked out going, you know what? I didn't feel cheated by that at all.
I didn't feel cheated by that. What a glowing endorsement.
No, well, that was. Remember my review of Old? Like, I was like cheated as fuck. I was like the twist was great, but the journey getting there was fucked. And but in this case, the journey was just as good as the ending.
All right, so back to my
very good.
My I forget the word I used, but the polarity. What the fuck did I say? The binary. Back to the binary.
What you're talking about. Okay.
Okay. John, what did you think? But no, you seem to be. I'm getting a sense here. I agree with Dave. To believe it or not, I agree with Dave. Actually, I saw it. I think the word that was used in like the Rotten Tomatoes consensus pick, because I really try to source my thoughts from the best. Was that they just called it a chiller. They said something like it's like an upper tier Shyamalan, which isn't necessarily a glowing review if we're being honest. But they called it not a dystopia. They just used the word chiller, and I was like, yeah, that's good. It's not. I mean, I guess it's a thriller.
I mean, it doesn't waste any fucking time either. You're like in it.
Great, get in there, get in, and get going.
Preamble out the window. Let's go.
It's not too violent or gory. Not a lot of jumps. Not a lot of scares. Pretty good premise. Even the way they introduced we already used the word apocalypse. Even the way they introduced the apocalypse, it's almost like Dave Bautista was saying, like, I know how it sounds, but I'm going to do my speech anyway, you know? So like they kind of tip their cat to it. It's not like the trees did it. Oh, it wasn't like that when they said apocalypse.
Oh God.
And then, you know,
just for mentioning that.
And then like the tropiness of apocalypse movies, you know, it comes around a little bit, but even they do it in a way that, again, it seems to be pretty self-aware. And I feel like my word for movies that I've liked so far this year, movies that know what they are, AKA movies that are self-aware, seem to be working so far at the beginning of 2023. This is Megan. This is Missing. And I enjoyed this movie. Could it have been more something? Sure, but it definitely could have been less too. And I think it was pretty consistent from beginning to end.
Yeah, I don't think anything will ever have the punch of The Sixth Sense, and that's what you go in there looking for every time. I would say don't do that. Don't go in looking for anything, and just sit back and enjoy what happens.
And Sixth Sense does well on a rewatch. I think some of his other ones do too. We liked watching the Village, knowing the ending and knowing that wasn't going to get us, so just to like put it at bay. And I think we really like when we were talking about it on a different episode. Go through our feed, people. We talked about The Village in movies of, I forget what year that was. And Unbreakable, I think, is better on the rewatch.
Oh yeah.
He called me Mr. Glass the first time was a little cheesy, but the second time when you know it's coming, it's I think it's fun to watch it knowing that. Anyway, ultimately I'm positive. John?
I think this is it's exactly what you think it's going to be. I think that's probably the best way to put it. Like, I went in with, you know, the expectations that I think most people go in nowadays with M. Night Shyamalan movies, and I don't know. I think it delivered on probably what most people who are looking for from if they've seen any teasers or trailers or poster campaigns. I really didn't know anything about this movie going in except for the posters around town here in Los Angeles, and this is kind of what I thought it was going to be. Some tiny little insulated story, which is always fun, that's going to have gigantic, you know, repercussions on the rest of the world and humanity. And I think he pulls that off.
Or does it?
Or does it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm definitely going to have some more nitty gritty comments to make about the way things flesh out in the second half. But if you go in with reasonable expectations, then I think you're going to be reasonably satisfied. Yeah. I guess my only thing that I would say, big picture, is that I'll save that for later.
You wish there were more grasshoppers.
I do have one.
They really let the grasshoppers go.
I will just gently point out to my two co-hosts that they both just said, just like Megan and just like this movie, they were fine. And
this is more than fine.
Movies aren't supposed to be fine or mediocre. Like, you know, I mean, if you're going to put all that time and money into it and ask people to spend $26,
this was more than fine. This is more than fine for me.
Things are tough, man. This is when you're dealing with an insulated story like this, and this is no knock on M. Night. I mean, I'm really not. Like, I thought that this was better than maybe some of his more recent ones. It's not even about apples and oranges. But when we're living in a world where we see insulated anthology-style shows like Black Mirror that do stuff like this all the time, really, really, really well. So it's hard to make a movie out of this kind of insulated thing and say, come watch this and come sit down and it'll be worth your time and money. And when we get into the storytelling for the second half of this, the way he introduces the end of mankind through chapters of, I think that there are things that kind of fell into the cracks of mediocrity in a way that did not need to happen. And I wasn't happy about it. I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, it was fine. I thought it was great. It was okay. This is
fair enough. Fair enough. Look, I like
more on that later.
I like Lombardi's pizza. I like John's on Main. You know, I like Arturo's pizza. But La Familia's is fucking good too. You know what? And sometimes I want a slice. La Familia gives me that slice and I'm fucking satisfied.
So when you want a piece of mediocre pizza, find a theater.
It's better than mediocre. Yeah. It cheers me up more than most food.
I will say,
you're proving my point.
And I'm going to get a little technical here, but one thing I didn't like was I felt like they didn't do their due diligence on the Dolby dialogue mix, because I saw this in Dolby Cinema.
Same.
Like the gunshots and like the examples of like when they cut away to news footage of the apocalypse that was supposedly happening. They were like redlining the audio. but sometimes you missed a piece of dialogue here and there. Like it was, I'm not sure if it was like mumbling and that was as far as they could push it or what, but like there were times where I was like, what did they say? In my theater.
I didn't really have that problem, but I know what you mean. I saw it in Dolby too.
Maybe my theater wasn't configured.
It's definitely a cool idea. I do want to say this in very, very positive way. I kind of felt like watching, and I didn't know that this was adapted until I saw the opening credits, which were cool. I love the throwback style of the opening credits.
80s horror. It looked like an 80s horror movie opening credits.
Yeah, it was fun.
Right down to the logo.
I didn't super love the drawings in the background and stuff. It kind of looked like movie production design, but I liked the actual design of the credits. Do
we buzz for that?
I thought it was refreshing. I thought it was refreshing seeing him adapt something that was not his own. And what Dave said is like true. This is probably the only, and I haven't seen Old, and I'm probably never going to see it. Sorry, but I haven't seen Old.
Sorry, no, wrong person. The wrong person.
But it was kind of fun, and it was refreshing. And I think he did some things better in this movie than he's done in a long time because this wasn't building to some crazy twist. Where M. Night, we've talked about 3 of his movies on this podcast now, you guys. And like you kind of just get into that thing you know we talked about in The Village where you're just like forced into this mindset of where is it going, where's the twist, where's it going, where's the twist. Yeah. And I didn't think this was going to have a twist. Like I got the feeling early on that this really wasn't going to be that. It's more of a suspenseful kind of just watch it play out kind of story. And it was, in a way, I thought it was kind of nice to see him stretch his legs a little bit and do something different. And I'm not saying that he's not a very, very talented writer, but it was cool seeing him work with other writers on a piece of material that didn't revolve around from that specific structure. And I think in a lot of ways, there are a lot of very successful and fun moments in this movie that are probably better than a lot of things that he's done in the past, decade or so. And I really don't want to be critical. I think I'm more of a fan of him than most people.
Also,
are.
I just want to point someone put something on Twitter earlier today to the woman who went into her screening and laughed every time something bad happened to the gay couple, like laughed loudly and then sang hymns all the way through the ending credit at the top of her lungs. Don't do that. You're an asshole. Don't do that.
I second that.
Yeah.
Should we move into spoilers?
Let's move into spoilers because I have something. Yeah.
Wait, can I say some things that I liked really quick? I'm just going to rapid fire them. I liked that the flashbacks were quick and underwritten.
Yep.
I liked that there was always the apocalypse. We know it's crazy, and the crazier that it was getting, the more they doubted. I feel like they played with that pretty well for a while with the little Jonathan Groff concussion thing messing it up. And the performances were good. So I think those are 3 positives.
The performances were great. Like Bautista really shone for me.
It's one of the best performances I've ever seen from him. And the dialogue was almost inhuman. Like it was very by rote. Also, but I felt him struggle with it a little bit.
Let's talk about Rubert Grint because that was a huge departure for him.
Wait, I want to say one thing really quick before you praise him. M. Night Shyamalan, I'm blaming you. If he sounds British in 2 lines, just do another fucking take or dub it. I don't understand why you print that. I just because so many people are going to hear that and go, he just went British right there. And it's not his. Yeah, he did. He should have been better. But come on, you put that in the movie. There's like 2 lines that were just incredibly British, and everything else was perfectly believable. Massachusetts. Come on, people, take care of your actors. Like, don't print that. I don't get why they did that. Okay, rant over it.
Also, I want to. Oh yeah, that's right. We have that penalty thing. Kristen Shui, the little girl, stole the fucking show for me. Like her reactions were amazing, especially like there was one that we'll talk about in spoilers. Like I don't know how they got that sort of reaction out of her. She's only done 2 things, but yeah, she's got some skills. That was a really good child actress performance. All right, let's move into spoilers.
Oh, we weren't in spoilers. Oh, sorry. Did I spoil anything? No.
Spoilers are on. Spoilers are on.
All right, ask away.
All right.
Do your worst.
Well, I mean, you guys can go first if you want. I do want to praise the opening was kind of taught you. There's kind of a campiness to this movie that is very much intended, and it's taught to you very quickly in the opening dialogue between Bautista and the girl. That is what it is. It's the tone of the film.
Dude, the fucking focus puller would have been in rehab out of this movie.
I'm going to ask you about the focus and the lens choices and stuff for sure.
Opening shot was out of focus.
There was at least one other that I picked up on as well.
The opening shot and it wasn't just
film
like was out of focus.
They kept cutting back to it. as well. Like there's one.
I wasn't crazy, was I, Dave? Like
No.
I think I think about it all the time now. It's kind of like I learned about it and now I can't not see it. And Dave, I've heard you talk about that too. And so I try to just watch, of course, and not think about it. But the first shot of the film,
and they're on a wide, pretty much there. So like, it's almost like they didn't set their back focus properly.
And he said in this interview I listened to, partly probably because he does kind of self-finance as being an executive producer on the films and having his own sort of treasure chest of money to finance these things. He said he's a big reshooter. So if something doesn't work, he'll throw the whole day out and reshoot it. So I guess the opening shot was intentionally out of focus. How did he miss it?
Maybe check your fucking dailies. I don't know.
But all the other ones were intentional. I don't know if they were. A lot of close-ups. But anyway, I liked, back to the opening, yes. And I liked the gentle giant who doesn't want to be threatening but has to, even though it led you to believe it was going to be more of a slasher. But that's okay. It was okay. Back to you, John.
Yeah. And as just caveat, as I start asking you guys these questions and we talk more about how they fleshed out the story, I've never read the book. I don't know what they took from the book, and I don't know if this is the book true to it, and that's just how it is. And
it was pretty true to it.
Of course, these might be things that aren't, that aren't M. Night's fault necessarily.
Yeah. That's the twist. The ending of the book is completely different. Different people survive to the end. And then the book ends completely differently to the movie. Okay, cool.
Well, I guess let's just kind of go from, go through it chronologically. As these four people are, come upon this house, and this scenario gets presented it's quick enough. It takes about 20 minutes before you know what's happening. These four people are trying to get in because they're trying to convince this gay male couple and their adopted child that one of them, so they need to kill one of their family members to save the world, or else 4 giant plagues are going to happen and there goes all of humanity.
Yeah. So they were the 4 horsemen, essentially. Yeah.
That is a gigantic idea. And I think as we move forward in this conversation and we start just chit-chatting about stuff, I'm just going to point out there are multiple times in this movie where what M. Night does so well in so many of his canon, that I think is his greatest strength and greatest weakness, is that he introduces big ideas and then just moves past them, or doesn't flesh them out in a very cinematic way.
How do you think he moved? Because the time was the thing for me. It was the reason he didn't flesh it out too much, because they were like, yeah, it might sound ridiculous, but we don't have time. You know what I mean? So what do you mean by they blew by it?
Well, all right, let's start with, we can, whether or not the themes and what he was intending this movie to be about. The fact that you open up the idea that they can ask questions, and that the 4 horsemen or whatever, these 4 people, are willing to kind of tell you some of their backstory. Why do they only have an eighth of a conversation when clearly the rule is we can have a back and forth and we can actually know a little bit more? Like it felt like it was introduced fully and then half executed. So it just I felt like I was consistently being put in a position as an audience member where I was like, there's logic in this world, though. Ask them why they're doing that. And they would tell you, apparently.
I feel like...
Did you not feel that way at all?
I feel like that was covered.
We met on a message board. We saw visions. It's like I feel like they were saying just enough for the tension of the scene to get to a certain place.
I mean, those were also misdirects as well to keep you going, well, hang on, all of a sudden there's a correlation between these people. Are these people just psychos? And then it shifts back to, is the concussion affecting what this guy's seeing? And then the other one is just total disbelief. Like he never comes around.
At the risk of sounding like a simpleton, I feel like they gave you the concussion thing and they gave you these other little mini obstacles to play with time enough to like make it seem like 12 hours went by and they asked all they could.
I mean, the concussion thing was necessary for him to come around to belief. I mean, just for anyone listening to this, the big difference between the book, and I'm going to ruin the book here for anyone who wants to read it, so probably skip this bit. Basically, at the end of the book, they get to a point where Leonard has the gun, they're scuffling for the gun, and the daughter gets shot and killed. But because she didn't choose it, it doesn't count. So he then puts the back on them for one of them to choose to die. Shit. And then he kills himself and they go, fuck you, and decide not to and drive out into the apocalypse.
It's a cool ending.
It is a cool ending. And I feel like that was the twist, that he didn't use that.
That's a good ending.
Yeah. One of the things he said in an interview was like, it would have made them seem very selfish to not make that decision on behalf of humanity, and he didn't want that for those characters.
All right, let me try to frame it another way because you guys really loved this movie. When in the second half,
that's the point of our podcast is to like these movies.
All right, they kept going back to the television.
Yeah.
Riddle me fucking this. Why did the planes fall out of the air and all electronics everywhere else continued working?
Yeah, aerodynamics would still work, I think. You're right.
Yeah.
So
the electronics go crazy, just like the Max. Sorry, the Max.
All right. So again, I don't know if this is.
I don't
know if this happened in the book, and I don't care. But there were so many opportunities in that second half where, like, you kept. Why were they not forced to figure things out differently? Why would the television not work? And then they would be, now we have a dilemma where Leonard can't prove that it's happening.
Well,
maybe they have to go outside and they have to see what's happening. And
I do wish we didn't see the clouds. I wish they never saw the clouds. If I were being,
well, I did like the fact that they used the TV's attention builder to include these big shots. My biggest gripe is, where the fuck did they get that footage from of the tidal wave?
Oh, it's California. It's just 3 years in the future. Sorry.
Why did I get fucking?
Yeah, no. I guess it was a live stream, but yeah, sure. Where did they get that footage?
Yeah, that was the one time where I was like, hang on a minute.
The phone kept working underwater. I don't know if you knew this, but the phone just kept working.
But yeah, I was. I feel like I didn't mind the planes so much, because one of the things, if you're going for the tension, is, why is this happening? I don't know. And that's immediately a tension heightener. Like Stephen King even said, one of the best things to do is like never show the monster, or never give a reason. And it builds the tension, because sometimes just bad shit happens to people. And this was one of those cases where like the planes just started falling out of the skies for no adequately explained reason. Why is it doing it? We don't know. It's fucking terrifying.
Guys, Hamilton's a Broadway musical. You know what else was? Mamma Mia ran for 10 years. Cats ran for 20. All right. So it's like,
it's a crazy world.
You're right. This is not Tarkovsky. You're right. It's not.
Yeah, I don't know. I was
playing to the middle. They were like,
I was on board for the planes. I had problems with the timing of, like, how did they get that tidal wave footage? And then he's like, well, this happened earlier. Did you not see the timestamp? And I was like, oh, hang on. Like, is this real? Is this not? And like, everything was playing with my mind in this movie. I think that's why I liked it.
Yeah, it was just like nudging it a little bit. Like, it wasn't mangling us, but it was enough
for reasonable doubt.
Yeah.
It almost felt like this felt like the kind of movie that probably on a smaller scale, written to a higher bar of intellect, would have been a really captivating, like, low budget dramatic thriller. Like, the idea is strong. And I think, because what you're saying is, I think I totally agree with you. And look, if that was what he was intending, then good for him. I'm sure he's selling a lot of tickets, but because it ended up playing to the middle and that campy tone kind of ran throughout, I still, even though I made that comment at the beginning about, like, I didn't think I was waiting for some big twist. You're kind of watching it play out more than waiting for the twist. I still kind of felt the whole time like they're not going to present anything new within this tone and within these characters and within this structure if they don't go away from it and try to subvert it somehow. And I don't know, I think they just kind of lived within it. And because of that, I don't know, I was kind of just watching and waiting for the next plague, just because I started being entertained by watching people die in mass numbers, which was like,
I have to buzz that.
Those were kind of the coolest parts of the movie, when they would turn the TV on and you would get to watch like the world burn, just because what was happening in the cabin stopped being as interesting to me, because it was the same thing over and over again.
That was a device that was added for the movie, definitely, because they didn't have the TV in the book.
I don't know. It was. I also didn't. There were so many things that happened in the cabin that were like the cutting of the. It's a totally quiet room. Are you kidding me? And he's like slicing away with a rope, like.
It also looked like he was
in front of them.
It also
moving.
It looked like he was doing something to another person behind them. Like the way the action was happening. Like, I'm surprised they weren't like, what's going on?
Yeah.
No, I'm surprised they weren't like, he's cutting his rope.
They went a little crazy.
The dramaturgical way to say this was that I really appreciated the idea, and this is probably from the book, that these four regular people were like, what the fuck? Why do we have to do this? And that conflict that they were dealing with. That is a lovely idea.
Yeah.
Go there. Go there. I know what you're saying, Jeff, about how I appreciated how short and underwritten the flashbacks were. Jeff's listener is referring to the flashbacks of the main characters, the family.
Yeah, we only ever get them.
We didn't really get to experience. I feel like there was a richer, more controversial that would have put the movie back on me a little bit more.
It would have been a good TV show.
If I wasn't just watching, people emote conflict, which also, I'm sorry, but like if I heard anybody else like like fucking like fluttery breath crying, like this whole thing was just.
Well, that was just the ghost. He was jacking off behind him in the chair.
Man, there was just so much of it throughout that like everybody was just. I just felt like I was supposed to feel the tension that was introduced to me so quickly that nothing else really changed, and I kept waiting for it to shift or pivot and find a different, more interesting way to give more conflict to them. But it was the same idea was at the beginning that it was at the end. And that's,
what this was?
You tell me if that's good storytelling.
Sorry to make another theater reference, but this was a 1-act show. This is an 80-minute 1-act show that does well in festivals because people go drinking afterwards and then go see another show. I saw this in the afternoon and it was great. And then I saw another movie that I'll talk about later at night that was a much better night movie. This is a great afternoon movie. Afternoon, it's cold outside. I'm going to stay inside and in a theater, of course, and watch this movie.
Jeff, that's kind of what I was talking about, though. Like, I'm not trying to be derogatory at all, but that's why I think some anthology series like do so well with cramming a single idea into an hour, and like when it's done really well, it's like it's just like, God, that's perfect. We don't need a whole new act structural thing.
It's very, very hard to flesh out the apocalypse.
Yeah, and I whatever.
Yeah,
maybe
it is.
I think I'm being harder on it just because I'm playing the role right now in this episode. It's 2 against 1. And whoever is that one usually sounds more negative than they are.
I'm not against you in this case. I'm not trying to disprove you. I'm trying to see. Okay, to me, the point of our podcast is a lot of critics harp on the negative. We are having a conversation where we're trying to keep it positive, and if there's negative things we want to talk.
Explain our podcast.
No, but I'm saying the premise is good because you're asking about these. Essentially, what you're saying is, shouldn't we care about these things? And Dave and I are saying maybe not, because somebody out there doesn't give a fuck about these, and I hope they turn to our podcast for sustenance, and then I hope our Matt and Mark friends are listening to you, pissed off at Dave and I, and so
very curious to hear what they say. I'll repeat what I said at the beginning, though. I think it's good enough. I walked out of the theater, and like every M. Night Shyamalan, everybody feels so comfortable talking about his movies afterwards. In the hall, I heard some people saying that was the worst fucking movie I've ever seen, and I heard some dude say, "I
but you're in Los Angeles, yeah, exactly.
No, I heard that in New York as well.
Yeah, come on, coastal elites. Yeah, come on.
Yeah, this was pretty good. Some of the performances, I agree with you, were quite good.
All right, highlight 1 or 2 so we don't try to figure out.
Well, this is a positive film podcast, so I don't want to talk about the people who aren't.
Yeah, exactly.
Who aren't good.
Oh, come on!
Come on, my fingers on the trigger.
I will agree with you that Dave Bautista impressed me. I wish he had more to do because I think he did his job really well at the beginning, and I wanted to see him evolve. And I think he ended up having to do the same thing over and over again, which is not his fault at all. He did it really well. I'm going
to agree with you really quick about Dave Bautista in that they had an opportunity to wrap it in at the end, and they decided to take the route that would have been really great if he was crazier during the movie. You know what I mean? So that we could have had some more levels. I agree with you. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, man. There's so many things they could have done. Jonathan Groff is always good, and he was good. And I'll stop there.
You didn't like the little girl?
She's a girl, man. I don't know. What do you want me to say? Like, of course, she's a child actor. You don't put bad children in movies. She was engaging to watch, and she responded under imaginary circumstances to her pretend parents. Yeah, she was good.
I'm talking about the end with the radio. That one scene with the radio.
Yeah, sure. I guess it wasn't like that bench scene in fucking Finding Neverland where you're like, what the fuck is this child? This child is just, acting circles around like an A-list celebrity next to them. She did her job really, really well. What I appreciate more about her was that she was willing to be put in. It's not even her fault, but like I kept thinking, and you're supposed to think, Jesus Christ, the trauma this little girl is going through. And I think one thing I would have liked for them to push her a little bit more on is, what was it doing to her? Because we never got to see how she felt about it. Like they commented on it in lines from their script. Characters said, parents, Daddy Andrew or Daddy Eric said, close your ears and close your eyes until I tell you to. Go until I tell you to. But we never really saw, I think M. Night missed an opportunity to go in close on her during one of these things and watch her listen to the beheading or something like that. Like, and you know what? The fact that you told me the end of this book, that is a much better fucking ending. So the fact that he was
seems to be
working
the consensus of every media publication
from
ever.
a fear of putting her into the actual trauma, but still introducing the idea of the fact that this child's being, exposed to trauma.
Or I wonder if he thought that the fact that this is a gay couple being told by a straight man, maybe he wanted what we got, which seemed to be, their storyline seemed to be representative of a larger issue, as opposed to in many cases that we've covered on this podcast, where sometimes your specifics, I think you mentioned, John, a quote from somebody one time that was, the most specific is the most vulnerable. I think that is a Scorsese quote, right? So it's like, rather than just let this particular, their uniqueness be universal however people want, it does seem like he wanted to open it up a little bit and make it a little bit more, to connect that storyline from beginning to end.
I did like they weren't just the token gay couple. Like, it was necessary for the story to proceed. Like,
were they not?
I did like that.
Yeah,
I don't even know what that means anymore, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
What did you guys
a lot of
think
filmmakers
about
will just
the
throw
idea?
a same-sex, like the CW throws same-sex stuff out like it's fucking candy. Not anymore, because
Are they gay? Are they a gay male couple in the book?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
I think so.
All right. Well, yeah. I mean, well, that's good that they kept it. And okay, so I don't know if this is in the book or not, but the fact that Rupert's character was he did come in contact with them in real life in a negative way before this.
That was an
I felt like
awesome
that was
doubt-seater.
Yeah.
Yeah, doubt-seater, but I don't know. I don't know if to blame the author or not, but like, isn't that a lovely random?
A little bit of a cheap,
like,
a little bit of a cheap shot. They just wanted the doubt to be there, and you know what I mean. They wanted some more reason for doubt, which they probably could have doubled down on more if we're being hypercritical.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dave,
a whole lot of those kinds of things.
Dave, what did you think about the last shot in the car when it was playing the same song, which yes is ridiculous, but the way they played it out with the 5 different stops and starts.
At first it irked the shit out of me, but by the time we got to like the third one, I was like, yeah, all right, I get it.
Yeah, it's
like
fun,
everyone's fighting with an issue right now, but her reaction when that song came on at first sold it for me completely. That's why I gave it some slack.
You know, my favorite
the reaction on that kid when that music comes on is amazing.
I think I loved it. Wasn't it that at one point she turned it off because she was like, you're right. And then she's like, no. And then she turned it back on again. I love that she changed her mind. It's not like they were arguing with each other. You know what I mean? Yeah. I like little things like that. They work for me in these kinds of things.
That scene worked for me. Mainly because of her reaction at the beginning. Okay.
So now we've talked about the content of the film a lot. So you can't watch this movie and not wonder why there's so many extreme close-ups. And also, not only were there a lot of focus shifts, I don't have the language for this, that's why I'm asking you, but I'll start with Dave. The edges of the screens changed. They completely changed. I don't know if the aspect ratio changed, but every time they did a focus shift, I don't know what lenses they were using, but you can't be in the theater and not see that the edges of the screens change whenever they do these focus shifts. So what was going on with these choices?
Sometimes it's a lens shift change, like it'll change the curvature around the edges of the frame.
That's it. It changed the curvature,
But other times as well, the lens choice versus the camera choice, the lens is not quite right for the camera plate, so you get darkened edges. There is one shot in there that does have it, but like you get darkened edges because it's the lens is going, it doesn't fit the camera plate, it's cutting off the corners. So there's a really gratuitous one in La La Land if you want to see a great example of it.
Oh, that one best cinematography at the Oscars.
Right? Yeah. One of their lenses doesn't fit their fucking camera plate. Best cinematography. Fuck you guys.
Wow.
I'm sure he did that on purpose.
Yes, I am. Well, I'm sure M. Night did
literally a shot from a camera in a garden. It looks like an afterthought. And it doesn't match anything else in the film.
I wish the Grasshoppers came back. I'm gonna say it again. It's a great afternoon movie in the winter. By great, I mean I'm not saying great movie. I said great afternoon movie in the winter. New release that I saw with other people.
The coldest day in the world.
And the whole world.
Honestly, it was fun. Elizabeth and I saw it together, and she liked it much less than I did.
Less?
And I think
she liked it less than you. Oh my God, great.
Yeah, your door's half open, dude. She's packing a suitcase in the background.
Honestly. Like I said, I went in with I felt were reasonable expectations. And I think I was right. And I think if you do that, it's going to be okay. I think my co-hosts are blowing it up a little bit more than it actually deserves.
No, this is really what I felt. I felt good things. If you saw Old in cinemas, or you know what? Forget about that. If you saw...
We're sorry.
If you saw the opening thing that M. Night Shyamalan did in Old, where he was thanking people. So when John Krasinski did this, and by the way, I'll also remind everybody who forgets this, John Krasinski had a show that was for free about highlighting people during the pandemic that were doing good. And then he sold it for millions of dollars to CBS and everybody got fucking pissed at him. When he had Quiet Place 2 come out, he thanked he did the thing, now it's not too, even before that, the Nicole Kidman thing, he's like, thanks for coming back to the theater. We really appreciate it. We know there's a risk. You guys are the best. Thank you for supporting this film. You mean, this is why we do it, whatever. M. Night Shyamalan did one and he seems like he was being held at gunpoint to do it. He was
oh my God,
so
dude, the end of that is fucking terrifying because he's like, totally
like he was saying, am I fucking done yet?
He's talking to the camera and then he stops after he's saying thank you and they haven't cut yet, but it's like someone fucking switched him off. He went full dead face. And it was like, what? Like that was more scary than the movie.
Yeah. I feel like, John, you've put a self-imposed leash on yourself knowing that Dave and I like this movie more than you probably expected. If you saw that opening, his old opening for this movie, you would cut that leash and fucking
terrifying.
Yeah, and you know what, you guys? Maybe because I didn't see Old, maybe that's why you guys are like, you know what? He's back. The kid is back after
totally
seeing Old.
You should watch Old for some context.
Guys, he's an American treasure. I said it in the Village episode. He is one of our only auteurs. Like, he still gets people to come see his movies. He's made a lot of movies in his career. We're still seeing them. We're still talking about them.
At least he relegated his cameo in this one to like a cable TV channel. Like
I did like his cameo.
It wasn't the one guy that explains all the plot holes at the end of the movie.
In Signs. He's like, hey, here's something the audience didn't think about because why would they have? Bye. That was Signs. He's like, they're not around water. And everybody in the theater goes, we've only been on this farm in Iowa, but you're right. I guess they haven't been around water. And that's like the point of the movie.
Because cornfields don't have sprinklers.
Guys, my favorite thing about M. Night is that, first of all, Sixth Sense is not his first movie. I think it's his second. But he just assumed everybody...
What was his first? What have I missed?
He just assumed that everybody knew the ending. So he just made the, you know what I mean? I thought that was great because when he assumes they don't know the ending, it seems like that's where he's getting into problems, which is every other movie he's ever made. All right.
What did you guys think of, because again, Dave, I think most people have not read the book.
Yeah.
So Jeff, were you thinking about the Four Horsemen allegory?
No, I didn't think about Four Horsemen. No, I didn't care.
Actually,
I didn't care. You know what?
I haven't read the book
care
either.
enough to think about the Four Horsemen. I just was like, whatever, let's keep going.
I haven't read the book. I researched the synopsis of the book after I saw the film. The Four Horsemen thing I got while I was watching the movie.
I should have gotten it. I just didn't care enough to care that much. But I figured they would tell me everything I needed to know. Why do I need to exert any brain power? I was seeing another movie later that night. I didn't need to like.
I'm a big fan of all the different
one.
personifications of like Four Horsemen, like Neil Gaiman stuff in Good Omens, and anytime they personify the Four Horsemen, I'm like really curious about how they're going to portray it because some directors really have some fucking fun with it.
Four whores, man.
Four whores. So his
we've been
first
pronouncing it wrong for years.
His first directorial feature starred himself called Praying with Anger. Came out in 1992 and has
And is that with an A or an E?
Praying with Anger?
Yeah, I just picture a guy really pissed off on Dateline.
It's A is in anger. What the fuck?
Praying with an A.
Praying.
Did he make that at
Oh,
NYU?
Dave, that's pretty good. I don't know, 1992. How old is he? Do the math. He is 70, so he was 22. So that's pretty fucking young, but he made a full feature. So whatever. But that's not the one that really counts. The one that really counts, of course, my motherfucking app just refreshed. His second movie, 1998, Wide Awake, 5.9 on IMDb, hour and a half. Stars Joseph Cross. He looks familiar. A guy from Milk and Lincoln. And Dennis Leary's in this movie. So anyway, he made that in 1998, and then Sixth Sense is in 1999.
It's like Dennis Leary made a whole bunch of movies in that one little section, and they just was never seen again.
Well, he did Rescue Me. He made his TV money, and then he said, "Okay, cool. So I don't have to do this anymore."
Also Demolition Man.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Look, M. Night is so established. There are classes in film schools dedicated to his films.
Is it night school?
There is a I saw on our
that
register.
laugh. Oh my God, your Green Goblin laugh just came out in this episode.
Jesus, the Willem Dafoe. I saw on our registrar there was a summer class offered through our film media studies program for like dissecting the filmography of M. Night Shyamalan.
Guys,
It matters.
how to make money averaging a 5.0 on IMDb. I mean, like, honestly,
you walk into that class and it's just like a TV screen and a boxing ring.
Guys, the last Airbender 4.0.
Oh,
the
yeah,
Happening
no,
5.0.
don't even talk
Lady in
about
Water 5.5. Now, granted, part of it is also the allure. You know what I mean? Like you feel it's easier to grade somebody like M. Night lower than you probably want, but then it probably deserves or not. I don't know. You can argue that later, but I don't have a point. That's it. It's just easier to grade him low. But like these are really low scores. But,
Well, let's give him credit. And I use the word campy. I don't think that's a negative thing necessarily. I think he's so successful and still gets people to see them because he was never a slasher person.
Yeah.
He had horrific elements to typically dramatic tales. And whenever you have a director like that, there's something that he said from the very beginning where he was like, I'm taking these things serious enough so that you should too. And it's just kind of like, I don't think this is going to happen. But if Ari Aster or Robert Eggers, if they fell off and they were like started making things that were much less, captivating than their first couple things, we probably would still give them a chance every time just because we know they're taking it seriously. None of these movies that M. Night has made in the past 15 years, because The Village came out in 2006, right? Wasn't that 2006 or earlier than that? 2005 or 2004? So none of these that he's made in the past like 15 years feel like, no offense, Scream 6. You know what I mean? Where it's kind of like wink, wink. We're only doing this for that tiny niche that wants to keep going on this kind of journey for these kinds of movies. Every time he releases one, he's kind of saying, I'm trying again. Come take it. Come judge me and come see for yourself. And so I do want to give it up for him for that. Cause I mean, this is,
dude, there are a whole bunch of like
prolific.
Gen Z who've never seen Scream. The original.
Now
Yeah,
Jenna
sure.
Ortega's in the next one, so they're all going to go see it.
Well, she was in the last one.
Yeah, so people, but now she's Jenna Ortega. Before she was the girl on the Disney Channel show. Now she's Wednesday. And Servant keeps getting renewed. So even though he loves people going to the cinema, he directed 4 episodes of that. They all have an 8.0 or higher because only people who have actually seen it go to grade TV episodes. And they probably is going to get renewed for a 4th season. So this movie would have been better as a TV series.
Has anyone seen Servant?
No, I haven't seen it at all.
I feel like
It's in its 3rd season.
It's about to start its 4th and final.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Holy crap! Wow, I didn't even know about it.
I'm gonna have to watch it. I'm just curious to see how he goes with the TV format.
Well, Rupert is in it.
Oh, nice. I'll enjoy that.
And
there you go.
We should say really quick, we should wrap this up, but the Nikki Amuka-Bird, who plays Sabrina in this movie, was in Old. So he is good to his actors. He's good to his fellow actors. So maybe people just want to be in the club, because there's...
Yeah.
Well, I mean, a lot of people do that. Once they find a good crew, they stick with it.
And maybe Bautista and Jonathan Groff and even Rubert Grint got some of those points. Maybe they're doing the Blumhouse model here. And, the shit's going to get made. It's going to get seen. It's going to make money. And hopefully it's good. I feel like it's worth it's worth a shot.
Cool.
He's such a competent director.
Yeah.
And I mean that positively. I don't mean like the low bar of that. I mean like he seems like he really understands how to use the elements of cinema to motivate audiences to feel a certain way. This is no hack on his writing, but just as an experiment, I would love to see him direct a script written by somebody else, like a really, really excellent script, still in the dramatic, maybe a darker side of the drama zone. Still something like it. But I would just love to see what he would do with that.
Tarantino. What was it? Jackie Brown was written by someone else.
I think it was based on a book from somebody else, right? But
that's his only adaptation.
Yeah.
He still wrote it.
People are still talking about that.
I got a similar feeling to that. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, and Fincher and stuff like the greats work with other people. Okay, we give this more time.
I think Jeff is right. It's the good afternoon movie. It's the good thing to watch, and especially now that we're starting to touch the giant movies that are going to start coming out, Ant-Man and stuff.
Yep.
I'm always going to be happy that there are smaller films like this that people can go take a chance on if they don't want to, go to crazy large existing IP and just feel like they're one of the sheep.
And guys, the $20 to $30 million movie, the $20 to $40 million movie, there's not actually the $10 to $40 million movies aren't getting made. This is a $20 million budget. I feel like this is like an area we need to support. I do. Obviously the indies for sure, but I do speak. Okay.
Oh, hell yeah. Cool.
All right. Thank you so much, people. Fuck you. What? Who turned that off?
No one turned that off. You double touched it.
No, I didn't. You fucking get out of here. Well, really? I guess we're just saying it to the audience this week because it is time to move. That sound means it's time to get into our final segment of our episode, What You've Been Watching, where we give you our recommendations of the week and tell you what we've been watching. We like to always start with our friend Dave from Australia. Dave.
Oh, yep.
What have you been watching?
I tuned in. We did our finally. My wife has seen Black Panther 2. We watched that today. Last night and today.
That's what you call it? You call it Black Panther 2?
We had to. Yes. We had to pause it halfway through because it was like 3 hours and it was like, I'm tired. Let's go to bed. We got up and watched the rest this morning.
I had to pee in the theater. I understand.
Yeah. I made it through that one. And also on Netflix, there's a new series called Lockwood & Co., which is it's a British series. It's a very interesting premise that they have this thing that they refer to as like, basically an event happens and ghosts turn up everywhere all over the world. And they're killing people. Like they can kill people and only like teenagers can see them because humans are checked out, like as in old humans are checked out.
So it's about climate change.
And but no, it's then these kids form these companies and they go and like find out what these visitors' problems are and try and get rid of it. It's very quirky and fun. We're like 3 episodes in. We're loving it.
These kids form companies?
Yeah, that's why it's called Lockwood & Co., dude.
I don't believe it.
Nobody likes that he's formed this company.
Okay,
but it happens.
I believe it a little bit more. John, what have you been watching?
Did I mention that documentary I saw called Afghan Dreamers? Did I talk about that last weekend?
No.
It's going to be on, I think it's going to be on Peacock in a couple weeks. We got to see it at school. Really, really touching about the all-girl high school robotics team.
Oh, yeah.
Kabul.
Okay. You might have.
So anyone who heard that about the news, it was really touching. Rewatched Doctor Strangelove. Saw a movie called The Watermelon Woman. Which was an indie film from the 90s that is really, really interesting. There's a really strange and fun kind of subversion that happens there. I don't really want to say too much else about it, but it's a good movie. And I started watching this little not so popular show called Succession.
Never heard of it.
I'm still behind.
Willing to take a chance.
Jeff, you got to work on your coordination issues.
Jesus Christ.
This button's way too sensitive. Where are you at in Succession, John?
Somewhere in 2, I don't know, probably mid 2, early 2.
I need to watch season 3. We need to coordinate so that HBO doesn't wonder why we're watching the same episode at the same time in different parts of the country.
Netflix is going to cut us off. Did you hear about their new rule?
Oh, yeah.
If you sign in from a different Wi-Fi, they're going to send like a code. And if you don't enter it within like...
No, you have to sign in if you don't sign in from your home Wi-Fi once a month, they cut you off.
Silly. Once a month. Anyway, stupid.
You can also get
really
you can also get
enjoyed-
vacation codes. They've got vacation codes that it's like I'm going away for 2 months or whatever. Here's my like I'll be away, but you have to let them know.
I hope their stock price plummets.
I mean, it's gonna. People are already talking about canceling their accounts and shit, and but I don't think it's going to plummet as much as people think because they trialed this in another country.
It's fine. Stocks are made up anyway. Who gives a
Also,
shit?
I don't think it's not going to give them as much profit as they think either because there's ways around it.
Yeah. I rewatched The Prestige.
Joe, can you set up a VPN? Can you set up a VPN from your Wi-Fi and your home in California?
Honestly.
What was I saying? Wait. What did you say?
Remember when I sent you guys the configuration for this show so you could have a buzzer and you couldn't even fucking figure that out? I don't think you set up a VPN for
We figured this out. Get the fuck out of here. Shut up.
I said,
You're also trying to set up a ninja thing and some other shit. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, look, on everyone's computer but yours.
Fair enough. John, what do you set up?
This is great. This is why I come here every week.
Dave's gonna edit this drunk. I want to get Dave as drunk as possible before he starts editing the show. John, what else did you watch? What did you watch before this? I wasn't listening.
I said I rewatched The Prestige.
Oh, it's better than it was the first time you saw it, right? Doesn't it get better?
That just gets better and better.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good movie. Yeah.
I think he's disagreeing with us. Okay.
No. I like that one.
Yeah. You kind of like, why did I watch this? But you're like, I'm going to watch it again.
Give me your top three.
No, it's always fun.
Give me your top three Nolans really quick.
Top three Nolans. Dark Knight Begins.
That's boring. I hate this list. Okay, next. What else did you watch?
And I do want to say, I'm sure we all watched it, but I'll throw out some praise for that episode of The Last of Us was really special. That was really moving.
Broke the world.
Expecting that.
Yeah,
it was great. I will say, I listened to both the CEO of HBO, the active CEO, the show. It doesn't fucking matter. Somebody who's really important in HBO, and Craig Mazur, is that his name? I listened to them on separate podcasts, and Craig Mazur said, we figured after episodes 1 and 2 that people would need a breather from the zombie stuff. All I have to say is, you make us wait a week. That's my breather. I don't need a fucking breather. You can give me the zombies again. I promise you. That's my breather is the fact that it's not a binge show. I don't need a breather. Give me the zombies. That's all I'm gonna say. I love this episode too, but I was okay getting more zombies. I missed the zombies. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, we are going into it wanting some, some fear factor, and this one was. Like,
they said we figured you will need a breather. Well, what do you call 7 days in 2023? That's a breather. I almost forgot about the show.
I will say I'm excited for them to get a little bit more into some of the science. I'm excited for them to get a little bit more into the science just because I am really, really, really enjoying the show.
I wouldn't wait for that. The scientists don't last long.
Walking Dead has already done this so well.
Yeah, but they were dead in Walking Dead, and they're still alive. I think that's cool.
Shut the fuck up. I mean, that's what I'm saying, though. Like, I need more of the science so we can start to have more and more separation, because it is kind of feeling like structure-wise.
Oh man,
what you just said is true.
I've played the game through. You're gonna hate how this ends.
Successfully and unsuccessfully in Walking Dead. It's always like Walking Dead was the best when you kind of forget it's a zombie show, and then like the camera pulls back and like over the next side of the hill, they're like, oh my god, this whole world that they just spent the season building is about to be destroyed by zombies. And so there's a little bit of me that's like, I'm tuning in every week, very, very happy. The acting is wonderful. The writing's wonderful. Every filmmaking is great. And there's a tiny little bug in my ear about now what's going to be different about this episode than one of the many really wonderful episodes of the first 4 seasons of Walking Dead.
Well, you got that from the last episode.
Bug in your ear, stick up your ass.
I heard Craig Mazin. I heard Craig Mazin say that him and his writing partner, whoever I feel bad, the showrunner, not him. They said, we will only deviate from the game if we're confident that our story that we're going to do is better.
Well, I can tell you that episode 3 was a massive deviation for the game. That's not in the game anywhere.
Yeah, so that's why they were talking about it. Like, it seemed like a good example.
Yeah.
There was an implication in the game that Ron...
Is it Neil Druckmann?
I'm not sure. Anyway, I just thought it was a good when you're working with adaptations. I thought that was a really good lesson just to be thinking about moving forward for writers and fun film goers who like to think of adaptations. Like, when do you change and when do you stay authentic?
The fun thing is the
authentic
game
isn't necessarily fun if it's not as exciting as something that can be better told or more fleshed out.
The game has some massive gaps in it, so they've got some leeway there. Like they skip like they go by season. So like you suddenly go from like fall to like winter to spring, whatever. And so there is room in there for extra story to pop in. From what I've heard, though, the entire first game is the first season. So
9 episodes. Wow. 9 episodes is the number that we're going to get. And it's going to be two seasons as of right now, but you never know. Could be 3.
The second season is the second game, and even I haven't played that yet, but yeah.
You got a year. It's a hit. Also, he was great on Saturday Night Live. I watched the Saturday Night Live episode.
Did you see the Mario sketch?
Yeah, he's good. He's very good. And Saturday Night Live's in a weird spot right now. You know, I guess Chloe Fineman is going to be the next Kate McKinnon type, you know, and she's sort of stepping into that role. Heidi Gardner is like around. There's like all these people that are dancing around. Like, who's going to be? We love the stars. We're star fuckers. And it's like, I guess Chloe Fineman's the one that's in every sketch, but he was such a delight to have as the host this week. Not that Michael B. Jordan had a couple good sketches last week too, but I rewatched Dune because I can do whatever the fuck I want. Don't try to come at me. I just did.
No, that's fair.
Did you like it again?
Yeah. I can't. The second one, I know there's shit coming. Like as soon as the second one starts, if you follow the book, and I didn't read the book, but I know this stuff's coming.
First one, it's so good though, isn't it? People are.
I don't know. You know
undervaluing it, dude.
There's something weird about, and I do this with Lord of the Rings. Right? I just want to watch the first one. I just want to like live in Hobbiton for a little bit. You know what I mean? I wish there were some more like a little chapters.
They won't let you do that.
I wish there were some side quests. Just speaking the video game terminology, I wish there were some side quests that I could do in Hobbiton. Because they leave Hobbiton, it's like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to see Frodo in the fucking with the bats, the bats up with, you know, the giant like birds flying around. I just want to see him in Hobbiton, like fucking around drinking beer and being like, they don't know that something's not right, but I do. Like, I want more of that. Anyway, what else did I watch? I watched this. I always love the 30 for 30s. The Fab Five documentary. I think it's great if you like your sports. I like the Fab Five documentary on ESPN's 30 for 30. And I watched all of Kaleidoscope on Netflix, which I did like. Shout out to Buddy John Yee from college, who's in a couple episodes here and there as one of the twins, for those of you who've seen it. So Kaleidoscope is a show where you don't have to watch it in order. And I've heard different things. I think Netflix does curate an order for you. It's not in chronological order per se, but like, you can watch it in whatever order you want, in theory.
Weird.
I don't think that benefits the show particularly well. I wish they made a deliberate choice, but it is cool.
Is that like a Rashomon kind of thing? Like, that's why you can do it?
I don't. You don't need to put that. You don't need to use those kinds of words.
It's not a perspective show, though. It's like a...
No. Giancarlo Esposito is the lead, and Rufus Sewell is sort of like the main antagonist. I will say there is, me, dialogue writing is the thing I'm most critical about, and there are definitely some tropey characters. Hey, let's give all the asshole lines to one person, those kinds of things, so that this one person is just such an asshole that you're like, why are they even in here? Oh, they have good sex. It's still not good enough. I'm so sorry. This is a heist movie. But all the heist stuff... At
least on this show, we take turns.
I like the heist stuff a lot. Some of the supporting characters, both the writing and the performances, did not advance the show, but the heist stuff was good.
So are you recommending this, or?
I can't tell either. Yeah. It's
I couldn't stop watching because I like the heist stuff.
Okay.
It's a heist show.
Yeah, but again, they go, because you don't have to watch it in order, it doesn't have that slow build thing. So it's kind of like, here's this time, here's this time, here's that time. So it's like,
All right.
Okay, that's it. Did I watch anything? Oh my God, I watched All Quiet on the Western Front, which I'm not going to say anything about in case we end up covering it on this.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we might be doing that next week.
So that was the evening movie that I watched on set after I watched.
I'm pumped to watch that.
Mm-hmm.
It's longer than I thought. And a lot of people died.
Should have gone to theaters, right? How did that not go to theaters? Crazy.
Yeah.
When you see the cinematography and the production design, you're going to sit there and go, man, I wish I was watching this.
It had to have gone to theaters at some point, otherwise it wouldn't have an Oscar nomination.
When was it in fucking
Dave,
theaters?
come
Dude,
on,
I
you know how
didn't
this
see it.
works. They throw it in a
they
theater
have,
in LA,
they
New
throw
York,
it.
and
It only has to be in,
they just
a,
dump it in
has to be in
there.
a West Coast theater for 7 days. That's and
I
Netflix
don't know
owns a
if-
couple of theaters over
Yeah,
there. So.
7
I think
days, yeah.
they had so much money that I think Netflix is involved from the very get-go, but this came from Toronto. Toronto was
Yeah.
its premiere. I would have loved to see it there. The color, oh my God, Dave, you got to listen to the Deacons podcast of the cinematographer talking about color. He's British too. You'd like him. But the color is so great. They avoid reds as much as possible because it's a war movie.
All
He
right,
says
well,
that war
dude,
movies are
I'm
obsessed
going to
with
be
reds.
talking about it next week probably. So shut up.
See you guys. Thank you so much for listening to our episode on M. Night Shyamalan. Go listen to our most listened episode, old, unless you want to hear John talk, and then you have to hear most of our other episodes. Thank you so much for listening to us, and we'll see you again soon, film fans.